Hey everybody, Fight Club Hubs here. Today we're going to be talking about Sega FES, Paragon, and some highlighted games from PAX East from our friend Nick. Welcome to GVN Live. Whoops, wrong intro.
I know my future is, but it'll never be our past. You can distance in your world, you'll never ever change the past. Yeah.
Hello there once again. I am Fight Club Hubs, and joining me tonight, as always, is Jan and Mark B. Writing. And how are you guys doing today in that order?
Oh, it's Monday.
Got a case of the Mondays.
It's been okay. I've been trying to deal with some stress, but well, it'll be fine. No worries. Everything's coming up roses. We'll be fine.
Yep. So, and how about you, Mark?
I had some dental work done, but I'm okay. How are you?
I actually feel rather good for once, I'm not as stressed out as I usually am from work. So, hi there. Anyway, today's show is going to be a rather light-hearted one. We are going to be just doing some light chatter. We're going to have a little bit of Sega FES talk going on. Sega did a lot of stuff over the weekend, a lot of announcements that are kind of exciting. Epic Mega Games made a bummer of an announcement, but then again, it's one that was rather expected, but with a nice upside to it. And then, of course, we're gonna start talking about PAX East as our fellow GVN Live member Nicholas, it's Nick, went to PAX East not too long ago, and he wanted to have us check out some games that he highlighted. Unfortunately, we can't get to all of them. Some of them are VR related, and there's no way we can really relay or talk about these VR games, seeing as we kind of lack VR equipment to or the demos for these games rather to share our experiences with them. We do, however, have some, we took a look at some of these trailers and whatnot. Some of these games are actually already out on Steam to view, so we're going to go ahead and take a look at them. Jan, did you want to talk about the first game that you might have found interesting from Nick's list?
I'm probably just going to start at the top of the list and just start with Ultra Space Battle Brawl.
Here we go.
This is a game. It looks like it's going to be coming out on Switch and on Steam. By a group called Toge Productions. It's interesting. So basically, the way the entire concept of the game is basically Pong, but it's like fight Pong, if that makes any sense.
Mm-hmm.
If anybody remembers the game that came out, I want to say it was 2014 or 2015, Lethal League, where basically you were just a bunch of people like bouncing back and forth a baseball at like supersonic speeds.
Mm-hmm.
This is sort of the same idea. Like, you're playing Lethal League, but you're playing in this sort of three-dimensional space, so it's up and down vertically. And the idea is there are targets on the back wall for each of your players, and the object is to try to deflect the ball away from and hit the targets on the back half of your opponent's field. So if there's good ways to like either play defensive or be more aggressive and try to go into your opponent's zone to try to hit the ball more to get more points faster. So there's a lot of mix up, and there's a lot of stuff that kind of happens sort of in the long run that really kind of that honestly I think it looks really good. I'm not sure. I've only seen a little bit of the gameplay so far. Like, I watched some of the videos that they had on YouTube for it, and it looks actually pretty interesting. From what Nick was saying, basically that there's definitely different characters, just like you have in Lethal League as well. So you got a little bit more, like, one has more topspin, one can curve the ball more, one just has way more power, so it just hits the ball harder and then runs into the back wall faster and stuff like that. So I mean, it looks interesting enough to basically say that like each character has their own sort of playability, and it really gives a lot of replay and a lot of competition base to the actual game, which you would think wouldn't be something you'd see from something like this, but I think it looks kind of interesting, and I think it'd be like a fun little side party game. I think couch co-oping that or having some friends over to play that at the same time, I think that would make for a really fun time, especially with, especially if you got a Switch in the house. I mean, that's going to be a really fun game for something like that.
Mm-hmm. It did look interesting. To me, it was like a cross between Pong, and I'm trying to think of that game that was on the Neo Geo that just got ported over to the PS4. I just suddenly drew a blank on it. It's the Frisbee game.
Windjammers?
Windjammers, yes. It's like a cross between that and Pong, and it seems to be like I really like Windjammers actually. It's like they started.
It's in your intro, Hubs. Come on, man.
I know. I drew a blank. I had a brain fart. Forgive me. Forgive me, Father, for I have sinned. I just committed sacrilege. But oh well.
Obviously, that's
yeah,
fine.
Yeah, but it looked like a fun game. Definitely a party game. I don't know if it would translate well because it's definitely got that unique flavor. It's got a lot of uniqueness to it. But then again, like, is it something that you can only pick up and play for maybe like 20 minutes, or is it something that can actually suck you in? That's what I really want to know.
Yeah, I mean, if there's a 4-player version or like a 4-player mode where you could actually just guard you got top, bottom, left, and right, and you could move around in that space, I think that would really play a lot more to the party game mentality. That would really give you a lot more enjoyment out of it than just 1v1.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because I mean, if you look in the vein of how a lot of these types of games really play out, having the ability to have more than 2 people really breaks the mold. To really put it past where it actually becomes more of a party game and really sells. Like Lethal League allows for 4 players. It's still all on the same screen, but it's still 4 players. Smash allows up to 8. So obviously in a genre where you're dealing with this sort of mentality, because I mean you could do 2-on-2 in Windjammers. So it's just a matter of what's really going to be the way that this game is actually going to go. Because right now, according to what Nick was saying, it's only 1-on-1, so it's only 2 players. But if there's the ability for them to basically open it up to make it for 4, and then have each player guard one side, one actual side of each part of the screen, so you've got a top, a bottom, and both sides, then yeah, maybe it'll probably see a lot more longevity.
You said Nick was talking in the chat?
No, this is just what he wrote.
Oh, just what he wrote. Okay, I was just making sure that the chat client is working tonight. It didn't work for me again last time we were doing this. But anyway, moving on, we got another game. This one is interesting in terms of its graphical style, but it honestly doesn't capture me in any way, shape, or form. That's Rage in Peace. Excuse me. This is a little looks like a platforming game. In the same vein of I Want to Be the Guy, Battle Kid, Super Meat Boy.
Mm-hmm.
Those really, fast-paced, one-hit kills, platformers. And the general plot of this game is that you're this guy named Timmy who just wants to die in his sleep, pretty much, peacefully. But it's the last day of work and everything is... Or it's his last day to live and everything is trying to kill him, basically. The way he dies, it seems like the majority of the time, it's whatever hits him decapitates him.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, a ceiling falls on him, his head comes off. So, maybe they'll implement more gruesome death animations. I don't know when the game is fully released. But from what it looks like, it doesn't look... It could be a fun platformer, but it just looks like it's just in the same vein as all those other games. Doesn't really seem to do anything that really differentiates itself from those other platformers that have been coming from the indie scene for the last 7 years or so. It looks it could surprise me. It could be wrong. I could be wrong about that, but I'm more than likely right at this point just by watching the trailer footage for the game. I like the graphical style, to be truthfully honest. The game looks really nice. It kind of reminds me of Scribblenauts in a way, the graphical style. For the little pastel art designs and stuff like that for the character and the backgrounds and all that stuff. Like, really nice colors, beautiful looking.
Yeah, it's got that It's got that Castle Crashers
Vibe,
sort of feel.
Behemoth
vibe,
Games.
yeah.
Speaking of which, what happened to Behemoth Games? I haven't heard anything from them in like forever.
Oh, did they get buy up by like Adult Swim or something? I don't remember.
Maybe, I don't know. But the last
Who
thing I know
knows?
is they did the Castle Crashers games, and then they were going to do a re-release of Alien Hominid for Xbox Live and PSN, and that was the last I heard of them.
Who knows?
Yeah. All right. So, hey, Mark, did you see a game from the list that you wanted to talk about?
I honestly haven't had a chance to really look it over to any signatures. As I said, it's been a really busy week for me.
I understand.
They released a game called Pit People. Last month, actually.
Oh, okay.
Ooh, tell us a bit.
I literally just found the Wikipedia article for it.
There you go.
I'm looking at it right now to see if I can. It appears to be some type of a pit battle game. Like, they don't really seem to have a lot of information. It is a turn-based co-op adventure game.
Huh.
Don't hear that too often. Turn-based co-op.
Turn-based co-op adventure game. That seems different. That's for sure. I'll give them that much.
Yeah, you'll quest and explore, find awesome loot, customize your fighters, and recruit strange species. Its sales did not do especially well, though. It apparently is extremely good.
Interesting.
I'll
So
have
it's
to take a look
another.
at that.
So it's probably a sleeper hit for the year.
It definitely seems to be. It looks quite good, and again, everybody from the reviews that I've seen, it's overwhelmingly positive,
Okay.
which basically means like 1 out of 100 people thought it was shit.
Probably because they were bad at it.
I mean, possibly.
I mean, you never know.
Okay. Another game that caught my interest. This one actually catches my interest the most. Fight Night. This is what looks like to be a cross between a dungeon crawler and, I guess, Punch Out, because you literally do nothing but run around in this dungeon, like arena looking place, and punch every enemy that you encounter in the game.
No.
I'm sorry?
Everything you encounter.
Everything you encounter, not every creature, so there's other things besides creatures.
Yeah,
Oh,
like
no,
the
there's
puzzles.
PCs. The puzzles have to be solved by punching them. Shopkeepers, you punch them to perform transactions.
Yep.
Okay.
You punch everything.
Literally, get
Just
everything gets punched.
Just everything gets punched.
Yep.
That
Okay.
game, I am on some level or another looking forward to. I don't know what the game is ultimately going to be, but I am interested in what it ends up becoming.
For sure. I mean, the ability to just literally go in and punch everything, that seems good to me.
Yeah, what about that color scheme you saw in the trailer for the game's layout? What do you think about it? It's kind of trippy, don't you think?
I like the fact that it's something different, that the aesthetic is very different in every possible way.
Yeah. Looks very interesting.
Agreed.
Agreed. Yes. You want to go again, Jan? Another game you wanted to talk about? I think I got maybe one more game to talk about, but there was one you really wanted to talk about as well.
Well, I mean, the one that I really want to talk about is Tiny Metal, so you go ahead and go first, and then I'll talk about Tiny Metal.
Okay. The last game is pretty much like a nod to classic beat 'em ups. In the vein of like Final Fight and Streets of Rage, and it looks kind of good. It's coming along nicely. It's currently on early access on Steam. It's called The Takeover, and the game looks real nice. It's like a cross somewhere between like 16-bit and 32-bit like graphics, probably like more detailed oriented sprite-based graphics. Really nice looking game. There's a lot of guns in this. For a beat 'em up, there's a lot of gunplay in this game. Like, they showed characters using everything from machine guns to handguns to shotguns. You have an assortment of different enemies. Of course, you're going to encounter, the typical leather-bound chicks with whips, the street hoodlums, the people riding motorcycles, and, of course, zombies. because they had to fit in the beat 'em up somehow, right?
Everything needs zombies.
Yep. Zombies are perfectly acceptable in everything. It looks interesting. I like to continue to see where it goes. I would hopefully like to see maybe some online play for the co-op. Excuse me, I'm like really short of breath for some reason right now. I have to keep like taking deep breaths.
Try not to die.
No, I'm not gonna die. Not yet. I'd rather,
Yeah.
not make Mark unhappy because then he'd had no one to pick on.
I would have plenty of people to pick on. I would be unhappy because you died.
Yeah, I was about to say. Wow. Okay, so that I was looking some of the stuff up. So, the music director,
Yeah, I
the one
was
who
gonna
actually
talk
put the
about
stuff
this, but go
together.
ahead.
Yeah, so the guy who's actually doing the music for it has done some serious business in music. He did stuff for Ease. He did stuff for ActRaiser, the original
Oh yeah, him.
original 8-bit Sonic the Hedgehog, original Streets of Rage.
Oh yeah, he did some good. He I forget his name now, but I think he also did
Yuzo Koshiro.
Yusho Kazero. Yeah, he also did the music for the Legend of Thor games, or otherwise known as the Oasis games for the Saturn and Genesis.
Yuzo Koshiro is a musical god. He is a musical god. If you don't know who he is, fuck you.
Yeah.
Yep.
Go home.
Yep.
And go home.
Go home.
So yeah, no.
Log off your computer and just go to bed. You're not wanted here.
Yup.
You like it or don't like it, but go to bed.
Go to bed. Thanks, Ric Flair. Thanks, Flair. You're the best.
Woo!
Go to bed.
Thank you. Thank you. That was great.
That's what I'm here for.
It is. All right. So, well, yeah. I mean, just gotta. I'm just keeping an eye on Takeover. It's been a while since I played a decent beat 'em up. I think the last one I played was Dynamite Cop.
Wow, old.
Jeez. Thanks.
I'm not talking about you. I'm talking about the game.
Yeah, and I still don't own a copy. I got it's like $60 on eBay.
Yeah,
Yes.
it's not.
Yes,
yeah.
it is.
It's because it's a good game.
It is. It's probably one of the last good brawlers out there, or beat 'em ups brawlers. They can't pick a genre name for
The
that.
same thing, really.
It's like the sideway. It's like the scrolling shooter games. They can't either call it a shooter or shoot 'em up. They just can't seem to figure out a name for them. Anyway, let's go ahead and talk about the final game for the PAX East highlights from Nick's list.
So, there's this group called Area 35. They currently have a bit of a controversy going on, and so I'll sort of go into a little bit. But so the game that they actually were showing off at PAX East was a game called Tiny Metal. Now, this is a game that's already out. It's going to also be released on PS4 and Switch, but it's been out on Steam for about 2 months now. It's basically, and they even said it, and Nick even said about it too, the way they attracted him was basically said, if you like Advanced Wars, you'd like Tiny Metal. Nintendo and Intelligent System put all their eggs in Fire Emblems in the Fire Emblem basket, so we're taking up the mantle. Well, the first thing I noticed about this game was it basically just automatically reminded me of Advance Wars. It looked it, it felt it, it just played just like it. What ended up being sort of the main problem, though, is that it's not so much that this game was the issue. Basically, what ended up happening was a while back, there was a game called Project Phoenix that hit Kickstarter back in 2013. It was this really awesome Japanese RPG that basically brought in about 10 times its crowdfunding goal on Kickstarter. But the problem is that all of this top-tier talent rolled in, and there's no game.
Womp womp.
What ended up happening is something happened around 2015 or so, and Creative Intelligence Agency, which is the original developer of Project Phoenix, delayed the game by 3 years to 2018. They denied distraught backers refunds while publishing sporadic campaign updates meant to ensure, hey, look, it's going to be fine. It's fine. Don't worry about it. But we've got it. It's going to happen. Please just Just give us time to finish it. So, spring 2017 hits, and everyone's like, this game is never coming out. We just want our money back. A bunch of private investors got the game, a bunch of other stuff happened, and then all of a sudden, there's this buzz about this new strategy game called Tiny Metal coming out that was initially pitched through Kickstarter. Yura, the guy who was originally working on it, ended up getting a secondary development team, Area 35, to produce Tiny Metal, which actually failed to meet its crowdfunding goal in September 2016. That alone kind of speaks to what basically happened here. Tiny Metal didn't make its funding, but they still released the game, and they're still pitching it because it's out already, and they want more people to play it. And they still haven't mentioned anything about Project Phoenix. And while the complaints are still coming up, Tiny Metal came out, and it's interesting enough to note that there's this shadow over Tiny Metal, because there's a lot of big names. Like, Yoko Taro basically said, play this game. It's good. Okay. I mean, if Yoko Taro is basically going to roll up and say, this is a good game, you should play it, okay, I mean, but that also has, you really come down to this idea of, are we really looking through rose-tinted glasses because are we just nostalgic for Advance Wars? Or is this actually going to end up being a relatively decent game that we just are going to let it fly under the radar because of the debacle that happened with Project Phoenix? So no one really knows what's actually going to go on. Hiroaki Yura is like deflecting everything, still trying to figure out what's actually going on with that. Everyone thought that Tiny Metal was basically just a scam game. When it finally launched, everyone's like, okay, so this is a game that actually happened. So where's Project Phoenix? And Yura keeps basically saying, look, don't worry about Tiny Metal. We did not fund Tiny Metal with the Project Phoenix money. Project Phoenix is still being developed. We're still working on it, and it's like, so it's this weird sort of niche game that basically plays like Advance Wars. You've got different commanders, you've got almost identical gameplay to what Advance Wars offered. You gotta capture buildings. When you capture the buildings, you can generate new units. The more buildings you have, the more resources you get to actually build those units. But the entire idea of what's going on with Hiroaki Yura and Area 35 and the whole Project Phoenix debacle, it really kind of puts a sour taste in a lot of people's mouths, because they're like, Tiny Metal is actually not a bad game. It's actually a really good game. I've put probably 15 or 20 hours into it already, and I'm just like, this game has actually got a really good story, if not for the fact that some of the names are incredibly close to basically what they should be for, like, America and Japan, but we're not going to get into that. But the game itself plays really well, and it's a shame because the game itself is just getting overshadowed by Project Phoenix and this whole debacle about it. I mean, Yura's come out many times saying, I'm sorry, this shouldn't have happened, but this is a thing that's happened. Please just wait. It's coming, I promise. And it's like, we can't take you at your face value because you didn't work, you stopped production on Project Phoenix for, a year and a half to produce Tiny Metal, and then all of a sudden we have Tiny Metal at the end of 2017, and we still have zero word on what's going on with Project Phoenix. So it's like, is it worth a try? I think so. Is it worth the $14.99 on Steam? Most likely. I think if you're really into that, then if you miss Advance Wars and you really want to play something that's going to basically be the spiritual successor to it, then I say go for it. Other than that, it's like, if you can look past the debacle, it's still a relatively good game.
I do love me some Advance Wars. I actually missed that game. I don't know if I have the 3DS or the DS Advance Wars game. I do know I have the first two on the Game Boy Advance, and I enjoyed the hell out of them.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. God, I can't stop yawning. I have no breath today. So, segue. Let's talk about Paragon. See, that was smooth, wasn't it?
That was great.
I know.
So, Paragon was this MOBA that was supposed to be like Smite, that Epic Games was producing for a while. They had opened it up with a beta. It had relatively decent reviews. But then the player base pretty much just said Smite's better. Clunky gameplay, issues with how the card system worked. A lot of people were just like, I don't really think this is a thing that
Oh
should
my
be
god,
something
this
to care
isn't
about.
Unreal. You lied. I
Yeah,
want a refund.
basically.
Yeah.
And so basically, back in January, they announced that they are actually going to be shutting down Paragon on April 26th. So
Mhm.
about 10 days from now, they're going to actually be shutting it down. Well, they actually updated it last week. And they changed some of the wording on the blog post. They never actually updated the actual date on the blog post, which I thought was really weird, but this is actually an update because it's newsworthy enough to let people know recently that, hey, by the way, we understand that many of you paid real money to buy in-game items for Paragon, and since we've decided to shut everything down, good guy Epic basically said, to make this right, Epic is offering a full refund to every Paragon player for every purchase on any platform, and that the refund will come directly from Epic rather than from your platform provider. We didn't execute well enough to deliver on the promise of Paragon. We have failed you, despite the team's incredibly hard work, and we're sorry.
See, now that's what I like right here. The good guy move from Epic Mega Games. They pretty much admit that they screwed up royally, and they are going to try and make good on their screw up by paying back everybody. If only we had companies that could follow in those footsteps more often, to be truthfully honest, then we probably wouldn't have, I don't know, people hit shit in the bed every time, let's say, I don't know, EA releases a half-baked Ponzi lottery scheme.
I look at it this way. If every company was as open and honest as far as how they actually were going to do things, and they basically said, hey, look, we fucked up, the game isn't doing well, we're going to shut it down, EA would probably be my favorite company.
Yeah, they probably would. But instead, no, EA's like, hey, we fucked up. Guess what? We're just going to decrease the value of the in-game currency.
We'll just turn that off and forget it ever happened, sweep it under the rug. Thanks, EA, you're the best. Here's the thing that I think is probably the most ironic out of all of this. They're going to shut down Paragon, they're going to give a bunch of money back, and then everyone's just going to turn around and spend the money on Fortnite. Just saying.
How did that game get so popular all of a sudden? Fortnite,
Battle Royale?
Because PUBG was the thing that happened.
Yes, I know.
Because PUBG and Battle Royale happened, and Fortnite added zombie shooter building.
Everybody. Originally, Fortnite was a game that was basically a horde mode. You would build up little installations to fight zombies, and you would just shoot the zombies down while attempting to collect stuff by building the installations and getting energy.
Yeah,
and
I remember that.
Fine for variable values of the word fine, but nobody gave a shit about it. So then Epic decided, hey, this sort of gameplay is really popular, let's tack this on to Fortnite, and made that free to play. And it's a better version of PUBG, basically. So now all of a sudden it's the new hotness. And because of that, everybody is attempting to make a battle royal shooter because two companies were successful with it. By the way, can we talk for a minute, tangentially related to the whole Paragon thing? Can we talk for a minute about the fact that Cliff Bleszinski is a fucking idiot?
Yeah, he was one of my favorite game developers for a while, but let's hear it, Mark.
So, Cliff's company, Boss Key Productions, has been attempting to make their own battle royal style game. Partly because, me too, but also because nobody gave a shit about Lawbreakers.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Oh, I was
I
so sad. I wanted that game to be good. I really did. It had so much
I need you to
potential.
understand. I need you to understand. People gave so little of a shit about Lawbreakers that Limited Run Games did a promotion with Boss Key Productions, the company associated, where they did a physical release in regular editions. And they ended up having to bundle it with other games in order to be able to sell through the amount that they had pressed. And they still had leftovers for damaged copies.
Ooh, goodness gracious.
Oh
That's
my
funny.
God.
That is
That's
one of
funny.
like 10 games that they didn't manage to sell through that I have seen. Nobody wanted
Wow.
Lawbreakers. Nobody wanted Lawbreakers.
Yeah.
So that
no.
game is basically done at this point. So they're like, oh, we're going to make Radical Heights, which is a battle royal shooter. Because fucking why not at this point? It just essentially seems that Boss Key Productions' entire business model is seeing stuff other better developers make and going, yeah, we can also do that. So Radical Heights is presently on early access, free to play on Steam. It came out like 6 days ago. The current reviews for it are mixed. Literally, that's the word that Steam is assigning to it, which means that
Mixed. Yeah.
1 out of every 2 people thinks the game is hot buttered ass. Fine. Today, Cliff Bleszinski came out and accused Epic of trying to poach his people.
Oh my god.
Oh
What?
dear.
What? Really?
So you're
Uh-huh.
saying your former employer is trying to steal your employees?
Yes. Because you know, Fortnite is one of the most successful games that they have at this point after a couple of fits and starts, and Radical Heights is mediocre as hell. I'd be trying to steal the people that made that game.
Okay, now let's look at it this way too. PUBG apparently has a lawsuit going up against Fortnite. Is that what I'm reading, or is it the other way around? Or was that
I
just an
honestly
April
hadn't heard
Fool's
about
joke
that
that
one.
got carried over too long?
No, I know that PUBG is suing another company.
Yeah, that's right. PUBG
in
was doing the suing.
China. No, so PUBG is suing a company in China
That's
for
right. Okay.
copyright infringement because they basically created a PUBG clone that is exactly the same thing with the exact same literally everything with some
Well,
other random
China,
name
they pirate everything.
because China pirates a ton. You didn't hear it from me, but they do.
Oh no, that's absolutely.
It's
that is-
everyone
that
knows
is
it.
the
Everyone
fact.
knows. Everyone knows.
Mhm.
So they're suing this company that basically stole all of their game assets and created a different game with a different name, but it's basically PUBG.
And apparently, it runs better than PUBG.
Yep.
Ah! Well, then again, you got, I guess.
So, yeah, it's pretty. The battle royale space right now is pretty. It's pretty hot, and it's really weird. And
PUBG is not
really
going to
understand.
exist in like a year. Like nobody's going to give a shit about that in a year, and it's going to be fucking amazing.
Let's see. Gaming trends. MOBA games. Battle Royale games. What's the next game?
Well, we went from MOBA to zombie because we did horde modes for like zombie modes and COD and a bunch of other games for like 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're in arena. So I don't know what's going to be the next big thing. Are we going to go back to turn based again? Is that going to be a thing that's going to happen? I mean, I hope so.
That is never going to be a thing. Fetch is never going to be a thing, Gretchen. I like turn-based games. Believe me, I do. XCOM is never going to be the new hotness on a worldwide level, on that worldwide stage, whether or not I love it.
I mean,
I do
that's
find it
true.
very depressing, though, that you know that we are at that point where you know doing a horde mode style game is not something anybody cares about, because I do actually like the concept behind Fortnite's design. I literally could not possibly care any less about Fortnite as a battle royale shooter. I understand the appeal of those kinds of games, and I'm glad that they exist for the people who like them. I will never ever be the demographic for that game. I will never be the demographic for that genre because I actively hate that type of competitive gameplay. But to each their own. It's clearly meant for somebody. I just find it depressing that the Fortnite game that I thought looked really cool and would have really liked to have played once it was a more finished product is basically being thrown to the wayside in favor of the PUBG clone.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Speaking of hordes, segue. Man, I'm
Before we
smooth.
go into your segue, I just want to note, The Good Life is on Kickstarter, so you should back it, you fucking heathens.
Yeah.
You do it, or I'll say mean things about you on the internet.
Oh.
Listen, I said mean things about Cliffy B, and I've never met him. Don't think I won't do it.
Yes. We've all said mean things about people. You'll just be one of many that will become our victim.
But
Okay.
yeah, seriously, it's Sweary's game.
Yeah.
It looks great. It's on Kickstarter with 17 days to go. It's roughly at about 40% funded, if I had to guess. So I would really like to see this game get funded. So
Submit the link for it after the show, Mark, would you?
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
shoot us the link afterwards, and maybe I'll even post the link in the YouTube archive.
There it is.
There we go.
Nice. That'll work.
Okay, so segue. All right, so we're gonna come to our last topic of the night. We're gonna be talking about the Sega FES, because Sega made all kinds of noise over the weekend in Japan, and
Oh boy, did they.
they made a lot of noise. They came out stomping the yard, knocking down fences, smashing car windows.
I think that's a little over dramatic, but it was kind of some solid news, that's for sure.
So to start off with things, their first big announcement was Shenmue 1 and 2 HD remasters coming out later this year, which got me all giddy like a schoolgirl. And this is actually and there was also the announcement of a brand new Sakura Wars game. So I get to I get to have my waifus back.
Oh, Sakura Taisen. I'm
I
pretty
was not
stoked
even
about
aware
that.
that you were that interested in Sakura Wars, Robert.
Actually, it's a joke, man. I mean, I like the series, believe it or not. I have the first 4 games I played through. I think I've actually managed to beat one of them without knowing a lick of Japanese, and I have the 5th one on the PS2, and I didn't even know they ported it to the Wii, which caught me off guard. I was thinking about just buying it for just the sake of collecting it, but I'm sure it's worth a mint right now. But
Oh, I'm sure.
yeah, I mean, the one that's actually more puzzling to me was the Sakura Wars. But, I mean, it shouldn't be, because 2 years ago, we even talked about this. Sega put out a poll for games that they want the fans to say that they want to bring back, like revisit, all that stuff. And at the top of the list was Sakura Wars. And it beat out Jet Set Radio, which is the second game. Skies of Arcadia was in the top 5. Sonic the Hedgehog was in there. Every major franchise they've had in the last 25, 30 years was somewhere in their top 10. So how Shenmue Remaster managed to somehow make it out, I don't know, but that's still welcome. I guess they want to capitalize on the Shenmue 3 hype.
Yeah, that's what they're doing.
I'm thinking
that's
the game
whole
is
reason for the remaster.
Yeah, I think Shenmue 3 might actually see through to its release of the end of the year now, but we'll have to wait and see for the official announcement from Yu Suzuki. And another big announcement from them, and this one is getting a lot of mixed reactions from people because the people they're partnering with don't have the greatest reputation. They are supposedly partnering with At Games to release their latest Sega Genesis flash system in both Japan and in North America.
Yeah, it's the same company that they've done the last 2 with, and the fact that you're probably only hearing about that now should tell you exactly what kind of quality those last 2 were.
Well, I already knew about the quality of the last 2 because At Games released at least 3 models of their system that's been coming out the last like several years. One of them was the 6-button handheld, which my sister was about to buy my nephew for, and I was like seriously telling her, like, no, do not buy it. The sound quality is shit, because that is the most common complaint about the system. It's nothing more than a poorly implemented emulation box. They also had what looked like a really decent looking, the last one that they had was a decent looking, like pretty much a Sega Genesis Mini with working cartridge slot. But it also came loaded with at least 30 games on there. But again, major complaint. The sound chip was shit. So there you go. On top of that, some of those games that were preloaded into the system were garbage, like games. Like they were just like stuff you would like. You go to the mall and you see like those guys selling those Chinese pirated like Nintendo 64 cartridges with like 200 plus games, and each and every one of them is just a clone of one another, but with different color schemes. That's kind of what you get on the At Games Flash thing. On top
Except
of that,
you can get those at like Bed Bath and Beyond.
yeah.
Oh, goodness gracious,
Yeah.
why?
So the thing is that people, even at games, I think they made a post on Twitter well before the announcement, and they immediately retracted it, deleted it, because I don't think they wanted people to know they were partnering with Sega, because Sega made a weird post saying that in an interview, saying that they are looking to get back into the console market, which sent a lot of people into a fury, getting super excited, thinking, "Oh my God, we're gonna get a Dreamcast 2 finally!" And they're like, "Yo, calm your tits. We're not talking it like that. we want to just follow the trend that Nintendo's doing with the SNES Mini, NES Mini. That's pretty much what they had to clarify."
Yeah, I mean, whatever. This is as good of a thing as anything else as far as that goes. I don't know why people would be excited about the idea of a new Sega console, because it's not like we don't already have 3 competing consoles plus a heavy emphasis on the PC marketplace at this point. Of what benefit would it be for any company to be the 4th console at this point?
I don't know. Ask Atari. They're trying to be the 4th console.
You'd be throwing your money into the street at that point. It would be a waste of time and effort. If there were 2 consoles only, and you were trying to create space for yourself as a 3rd alternative, I could kind of nod and go along with that. But we're talking about being 4th place. There is no market share for Sega in that situation. It's just not worth it. No reasonable company would make that attempt. And I don't care how excited people are for it. They wouldn't buy a Sega console either. That thing wouldn't break 5 million units. Sorry, it just wouldn't. And I love Sega, but
yeah, I don't think I'd buy a new Sega unit either, to be truthfully honest. As much as I was a fan of Sega back in the 90s, and I was a big fan of the Dreamcast, just the fact that, well, I don't think Sega has learned their lessons in the last 18 years post-Dreamcast, that I think they would still have horrible third-party relations, probably just as bad, if not worse, than Nintendo's.
Well, I mean, the thing about Sega is they are a third party at this point. They have been for a long time. I mean, considering the fact that the Dreamcast is 20 years old.
Stop making me feel old.
Just saying. I mean, the Genesis is 30, so okay. I mean, they haven't been in the market since Dreamcast. When Dreamcast died, that was it. They turned into a third-party software developer. If they're saying we're going to make a new console, I wouldn't get your hopes up for something new. I get my hopes up for maybe going, oh, maybe this time they'll have a virtual console that doesn't suck.
Yeah. Speaking of virtual consoles, since Nintendo's obviously not going to release one for the Switch, but that isn't stopping people from releasing their old games on the system. Sega announced that they're going to bring their Sega Ages collection to the Switch. So far, 3 of the confirmed games, Alex Kidd, Sonic the Hedgehog, Phantasy Star, and one of them is an arcade game that I cannot remember the name for, sadly. I just cannot remember it. Raid something. Whatever. But, so, the Sega Ages Collections, if anybody remembers, is a series of games that
Game
they were...
Ground, sir.
Huh?
Game
Ground.
sir.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, the arcade game. I don't know why I said Raid. Whatever. But Sega Ages is a collection of games that Sega was releasing back on the Saturn, which were usually like minor upgrades to games that were released in the arcades or on the Genesis, that they would run better, they would have extra features and whatnot. And then the Ages series, migrated to the PlayStation 2, where most of the games got huge graphical upgrades. In case, like, Mark joined me for a game jam last year or the year before, where I was playing the Sega Ages version of the original Phantasy Star, which was a beautifully remade 2D sprite-based, like, hand-drawn, like, game with some amazing-looking graphics, better music, better dialogue, better pacing overall, and it was pretty good. They did the same thing for a bunch of other games, increased, they did do some really horrible ones, like, I believe, Golden Axe looked like shit. Because it was 3D. It was kind of like Turtles in Time on the Xbox Live Arcade.
Ooh.
So, yeah, if you have a chance, pass that one by. But, on top of these Sega Ages games coming out for the Switch, Sega's also saying, hey, we're heavily considering Saturn and Dreamcast games. So,
Yes, please.
yeah. But
Be
then
back my
again,
time
like,
to do it.
how many times is Sega gonna do this compilation bullshit?
Look, that's all they have right now. Their old IPs are in the toilet. Nobody plays 90% of the Sega games outside of Sonic, except in Japan. My biggest issue is that 3 of their biggest IPs are Japan only, and have been Japan only for over a decade. And that really, like, for me, who's been, like, hard on the Sega train for a very long time, like, really makes me sad that, like, so there was 2 announcements outside of Sakura Taisen. There was also another one called Border Break. Border Break is, oh my god, it's the Virtual On successor we've wanted for a very long time. They're releasing it on PS4. They have downloadable versions. They're doing physical deluxe copies as well. It's supposed to come out in August of 2018 in Japan.
Thank God
There's
PS4 is
a-
region free.
There's a huge demand for this kind of a game. People have been wanting a Virtual On successor for a long time, especially, because Virtual On's been a great game anyway. It was just the idea of running around doing, tank style mech combat was really fun, but it was arcadey and it was fast like a fighting game. So Border Break is supposed to be doing that same kind of an idea with, like, way more optimization and customization. It's like a mix of, like, Virtual On and Armored Core. And it looks fantastic, and I'd really love to actually see the ability to play it. And yes, while I can download it in the United States, I can't play it in the United States because I don't live in Japan or have a Japanese IP. It's the same problem that Capcom has with Dragon Dogma Online and Monster Hunter frickin' Frontier Z. You can download those games onto a PS4, but you can't play them in the States because you don't have a Japanese IP. Unless you actually are in Japan or have a Japanese IP, you cannot log in and play those games. And that's the same thing that they're going to be doing with Border Break. And
Well, what
that
about
really angers
Phantasy
me.
Star Online 2? I can play that online.
That's different because PSO2 not only opened in Japan, but opened for beta worldwide. They don't want American players or other people playing, but they know they can't stop people from playing PSO2.
They did do an IP ban for a while, and they seem to have lifted it.
There's a reason for that, though. The reason why they IP banned literally every carrier from outside of Japan was because they got DDoS, and Sega flat out said, no, you don't do that to us. And so they shut down every other IP from outside of the United States for almost 6 months before each individual ISP from around the world started slowly getting their ability to access the game back.
Mhm.
So for a while, the only way you could do it was through a proxy. And even then, the proxy was like shoddy at best for probably the first 2 or 3 months. Because
Lucky me,
the code
actually,
was
when
bad.
they were with that 6-month period, I was still able to get online without a proxy.
Some people got lucky and their ISPs were removed very quickly. Other people weren't so lucky. People who were on Comcast and people who were on AT&T had to wait almost
Verizon.
the entire time.
I have
Um,
Verizon Fios.
But also keep in mind
Yeah.
that Verizon. Keep in mind about the way Verizon works, though. Verizon's also known as Vodafone overseas, and Vodafone itself is also a co-business when it comes to NTT. So they kind of have a relationship. So Verizon is one thing, for NTT's the other.
Mhm.
But yeah, Border Break looks amazing, and I kind of can't wait to see what it actually is going to play like. If they're going to block it in Japan, then I'll find a way to play it because I'm a huge fan.
Okay.
They announced another VR game based on a character from the Shining Saga. It's a dating VR game because Japan anime titties. What are you gonna do, right?
I'm not complaining.
Look, hey, neither am I, but that's beside the point. The other thing that I also noted that I was a big fan of is that they're actually doing a crossover event for PSO2. And this is something that I saw separate of Sega FES, but they announced it at Sega FES. Because of the release of Persona 3 and Persona 5 Dancing All Day and Dancing All Night, Sega is doing a PSO2 crossover event in June for characters to actually have so you actually get the ability for the male characters, you actually have the ability to get the MCs from Persona 3 and Persona 5 as a full outfit. And then for the female characters, for the female casts, there is an Aegis outfit, and for the other females, there is a Futaba outfit. So the fact that they're gonna ride that popularity of not just Persona 3 and Persona 5 in Japan, but also the new dancing games to commemorate those games coming out, they're doing another crossover event in PSO2 for that too. So they announced a lot of side things. Like they actually had PSO2 actually had a massive presence at Sega FES. They actually had I think 3 or 4 separate panels that they actually hosted about different aspects of PSO2 just at Sega FES.
And still no U.S. release.
Nope. And it was funny because somebody, I think it was you that mentioned that somebody was talking about Sega FES, and you mentioned Sega FES in the chat, and then I'm just like, oh, good. Shenmue 3 isn't coming again. Shenmue 3 has been delayed, and PSO2 will still never come to America. Woo!
Shenmue 3's got nothing to do with Sega, but hey,
I mean, they own the rights to the first 2, and Yu Suzuki can do what he wants to with the third one, and I'm perfectly happy with that. But
Hey.
look, I mean, if the man wants to troll tweet forklifts for the next 6 months, I'm happy. At least I know he's still alive, which means he's still working on the game.
You know what? In regards to Shenmue 3, it's just that, like, what are we going on 3 years now since the Kickstarter? And
2?
no, when did was it 2016 Mark that was announced, or was it 2015?
Listen, Robert. Listen.
You don't care. Never mind.
No, you're the one who gives a shit about that. I do not.
Okay.
I play Yakuza like a real adult.
Good for you, sir. You want a medal or a cookie?
Freaking French my anus. How about that?
Wow.
Sorry, I don't go there.
Children, please. I will turn this stream around.
Please drive it off a cliff.
We're doing such a good job of that on our own.
I know.
Why stop now?
Why bother?
Yep. But I think the thing I'm most excited about after the Sega FES announcements was really Sakura Wars. I was really happy to hear that is making that. Let's see, what was it? The U.S. release of Sakura Wars 5 literally came a couple years after the death of the PlayStation 2, which was kind of weird considering the game came out in Japan in like 2002 after Sega ported the first 4 games to the PlayStation 2 after they ported all 4 of the game after they had all 4 games on the Dreamcast. Sakura Wars has like it's like a cultural phenomenon over there, and then it died off. Like I watched this documentary about it. It didn't just have like a manga and a comic book or a manga and an anime series and OVA adaptations about it. This thing had everything from like shops to card games to even a fucking play on whatever their version of Broadway is. Like they literally this thing was like really fucking huge for about 20 years. From like 1996 when the first game came out till about 2006. And I think the play actually just recently died just before 2010. Like they actually called it quits. And now that they're going to make a new game in the franchise after such a long hiatus, I wouldn't be surprised if this is like almost Dragon Warrior or Dragon Quest levels of like hype over in Japan, because it was a very revered franchise over there.
I mean, to be fair, a lot of games in Japan end up getting like stage plays and things like that. It's a very strange phenomenon.
I mean, a lot of the stuff that's in like like you were talking about earlier, how they were talking about the poll and how Sakura Taisen was actually the game that ended up being on the top. There's a reason for that, because it's probably one of the most like beloved Sega franchises of all time. Like outside of maybe Sonic, it's a really popular series. It has very popular characters because, let's be honest, if it's a waifu simulator, people want to play it. But it really spoke to just the basic idea of sort of what the story was all about, and the fact that people were actually really interested in sort of the way the gameplay and everything put together at the time. So the fact that it was as popular as it was, and the reason why it took number 1 over some of the other games that could have actually come out to me, wasn't really a big shock.
Yeah, I'm just sad that, another game that was literally in the top 5, Skies of Arcadia. That game was great, and I'm sad that game is just, for whatever reason, Sega just shits on that game and its existence, despite the fact that it was critically acclaimed, and people loved it, and it sold well on both the Dreamcast and on the GameCube.
Yeah, so, again, I point you to Phantasy Star Online.
I know.
Games that do well in Japan don't necessarily do well in the States, and because of that, it does tend to be a little bit more touchy-feely for when it comes to Sega wanting to actually, release games in the States. A lot of it has to do with the same mentality that Capcom has for Monster Hunter. They don't understand the popularity of those games amongst the player bases within the United States. And because they don't understand the player base, they tend to see that there are a lot of people who want these games in the States, but then they still don't release them. So I don't know. It's just a thing. A lot of these Japanese companies have a really big problem with their games actually being released in the United States, whether it be for specific reasons or for somebody else. I don't understand why. But there is something to be said about the fact that some these companies, they see these games that are popular in Japan, and then all of a sudden there's and whether or not, Zig, whether or not they actually say that Monster Hunter World is as big in the States as it should have been, and is going to change Capcom's mind for future Monster Hunter titles, who knows? I'd like to think yes. I'd really like to think yes, because honestly,
well, it also would depend on the platform of choice. This is the first real mainstream console version of the game for multiple systems. 3 came out on the Wii and then ported to the 3DS and then back to the Wii U. And it had some moderate success, but
let's be honest, everyone knows the Wii wasn't a real console.
Hey,
I mean,
everybody tried to make it seem. Every company tried to make it seem like it was.
look, the problem with it is that everybody that was making stuff for the Wii and the Wii U wanted to deal with the actual gimmick of the system. So they wanted to deal with the Wiimotes. They wanted to deal with the tablet. They wanted to deal with the motion controls. All of the gimmicks that were all based on what the Wii and the Wii U were really all about. That's what people were aiming for. The reason why Monster Hunter didn't do well on the Wii and the Wii U was because of those controls. They didn't. You had to buy a special version of Try just to get a controller with dual analog sticks so that you could control the camera and actually roll. That's how that game actually was decent enough for it to actually have a player base. But even then, the online was just bad. I mean, the Wii had a bad, internet connectivity anyway.
Who
when they
also
ported
remembers
over
the little
to Wii U,
microphone attachment that you had to buy for it that sat at the base of your TV?
It was the worst. It was literally the worst thing ever.
It was like online for Nintendo, even I think to this day, is still just in the back of their minds. Like, they just don't get it.
So when they decided, okay, we're going to release it on an actual console, we're going to put it on PlayStation, we're going to put it on Xbox, and then we're probably going to put it out on PC at some point too. The idea of what they're doing with this is like, okay, you have a really good idea, and I want to see you guys continue to make good decisions on something like this, because right now, having Monster Hunter World as a game that's available, if they were to bring PSO2, there's a lot of people that would play it. And there'd be even a lot more people who'd be willing to spend real fucking dollars to buy the AC scratch to make themselves look pretty. Because Final Fantasy XIV has already showed from Square Enix that the Mog Station works really well. And you can buy all of the stuff that you want, and people are willing to buy that stuff because it's cheap. But, whatever. What do I know? I'm not a game designer. I don't know these things, but I know that there are honest to God people who are interested in these series and these games that Sega has produced for 20 years now, and people still want to play these games like dramatically. Like they are just over the moon about knowing that there's a new Sakura Taisen game, that there's a new game that's going to basically be like a successor to Virtual On. That there's going to be games that are, coming out that are going to be on the Switch, which makes a lot of their favorite games portable. So, and then they're like, oh, we might put some Saturn and some Dreamcast games on there. And there's a lot of games like, Choo Choo Rocket on the Switch. Let's go. I'm good
With online.
With online and local multiplayer. Let's fucking go. I'm down for some 4-player couch co-op Choo Choo Rocket again. I love the fuck out of Choo Choo Rocket. That game is fun.
Cat bomb your fucking ship.
But yeah, like that's really kind of my rant is a lot of these companies just they need to get their heads out of their asses, because there's just this idea that even though the game is popular in Japan, it won't be popular in America, or vice versa. Just because the game is popular in America doesn't mean it will automatically be popular in Japan.
So, like in that vein, let's look at Sega's puzzle series that they've brought over, Puyo Puyo. Somehow they found an audience. Somehow they still keep bringing those games out in America now. I believe the first one they brought out was, Dr. Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was literally a Puyo Puyo game that they just reskinned. And then they started bringing them out, I think, on the Dreamcast and the Xbox, at 3DS. And now we have Puyo Puyo Tetris on the Switch and PS4.
Yeah, Puyo Puyo has been a thing for a long time.
It's been a long time. Before that, it was
Dr.
columns.
Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine, but
yeah.
The idea behind what Sega has as far as some of their franchises is like there's a lot of really good games that Sega has always been able to produce first party, and that's great, except for the fact that they really got to get their head out of their ass about which games they need to bring to the States and which games they decide not to bring to the States, because we're worried about localization, it'll lose something in the translation. It's a damn waifu collector. That's not going to be something you lose in the translation.
Well, it's not really much of a waifu game, to be truthfully honest. From what I remember in the game,
It's all tactical. Yeah, no,
it's tactical.
all
It's
tactical
you
stuff,
build
but-
relationships with your waifus. I mean, but then again, I can't say that because there's a couple of fucking lollies in the game. There's always a lolly. God damn it.
Thanks, Japan.
Thanks, Japan. You started something that makes people feel dirty.
Good. You should.
Well,
There's
I
a
mean,
difference
some people
between-
are unabashedly dirty and they're happy about it. And you know what? Thank you for weeding out the weirdos. Thank you.
There's a difference between Loli and Patenko. Let's just get that out of the way.
I don't even know what the later is.
Flat-chested.
Okay.
That's
Listen,
I get it. I get it.
All I have to say is that was not my fault.
She said she was 18. I don't know what you're talking about, officer.
But no, like the game, you communicate, you try and build a stronger relationship with the female ensemble army that you are with, and you building these bonds creates I guess improved performance in battle and all that crap. But yeah, it's definitely a fun game. It's got pretty good story to it. The character backstories were really good. I mean, the first game, it took a while because it seemed like each chapter, well, pretty much in every game, a chapter is literally dedicated to every character until like the final 5, where the game's plot finally hits the fucking fan. Because it's like, oh hey, wait, there's bad guys we need to take out instead of you trying to flirt with Sakura. Ichigo, or whatever the guy's name is. I forget the guy's name.
I don't pay attention.
It's
to
Ichiran,
it.
that's right, Ichiran. But anyway, so yeah, Sega did a lot of cool stuff over the weekend. I mean, I think the thing that stands out the most, besides the Sakura Wars and Shenmue, I think the thing that everyone's excited for and they can't wait to see it play out, is the Dreamcast Saturn games being ported. Like, what do you think is going to be the first set of games that you'll see from either system?
I just like the fact that people are more interested in what's going to coming out software-wise than they're worried about whether or not the Mega Drive Mini is actually going to work out or not.
I don't think anybody cares, to be truthfully honest, about the Mega Drive Mini.
No.
I'm not interested in it. I mean, especially since it's at games that they've partnered with. Hell, I'd rather it be Tectoy, to be truthfully honest, and they've put out some shit Genesis stuff.
Ooh. Ooh. Harsh.
Hell, let it be Majesco. At least they put out a decent Sega Genesis 3 model.
Wow.
Yeah, that's how much I think of. That's what I think of at games right there. Does Majesco still even have the license for the Genesis hardware?
Does Majesco still exist anymore?
They should. They own the rights to the Blood Rain series, don't they? Because they got 3 Blood Rain games, and I know they released one on the Xbox Live Arcade and PS4. And the verdict from Mark.
The only Majesco that seems to exist anymore is an insurance company.
Yeah.
Majesco, the game company, was acquired by Polarity TE, a biotech company, in December of 2016. And
It-
ceased all operations on video game development on the 8th.
Interesting.
Huh.
All
It was
right.
reacquired by CEO Jesse Sutton back in 2017. He still privately holds it. Oh, wait, no. They came back in just November of 2017, apparently, and released a game, Romans from Mars, on Steam.
I'll have to look that up then.
Or are releasing a game, Romans from Mars. I don't know if it actually is on Steam yet or not.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, it was released in December of 2013, so I'm not sure what the thing is there.
Maybe an early access.
No, it just says that it was released. They just put it onto Steam,
Oh,
as a
okay.
game, I guess. But yeah, that's like the most recent announcement that they apparently have. They're selling their games again, just on Like it's privately held, and they're just selling their old shit on PC and whatnot.
Okay. Well, hey, let's hope they make a comeback. It's nice to see video game companies go through the shitter and try to make comebacks. I mean, sure, whatever. Anyway, so segue to we have nothing next. Damn.
Yeah, that's
well,
pretty much what I got.
Yeah, that's pretty much it right there. So I guess it's a good thing to end the show on. Actually, I do like to do a couple things real quick. So if this is your first time watching GVN Live, thank you for tuning in. Jan and Mark are always here with me every other Monday. I also stream on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Tuesdays is Game Jam, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Usually Game Jam is just me and my friend Lance playing random online games. Pretty much we are open to invite anybody that wants to play. Wednesdays is 3 Vets and a Noob. Right now we are going through Borderlands. It's 2 hours of comedy and camaraderie. That would be me, Kelpelp, Lance, and my friend Matt. As we just fling insults at each other for 2 hours as we're trying to kill things. And I just recently posted up a new video. It is me and Nick's review of the movie Rampage. Just a quick fill-in. We really enjoyed it. Fun monster flick. So check out the video if you want to hear our thoughts. It is spoiler-free, so definitely check it out. Mark, Jan, do you have anything you'd like to plug?
No, pretty much still doing the weekend streaming, so that's pretty much what it is. Other than that, no, not really.
I'm still kind of possibly retooling the idea of bringing back the podcast. I'm not definitely on that or not, but whether or not I stream this Saturday, next Saturday, I will definitely be doing a board game stream to happen to coincide with the celebrations for my birthday.
Oh,
Cool.
I'm not 100% certain what's going to be going on there, but it's going to be an event. We're going to be playing board games. It's going to be, just all kinds of dumb shit. So whatever.
So you're saying the 28th is the birthday board games bash?
Yes.
Cool. And what are you, turning 25?
Sure.
Let's go with that.
All right. Hey, we got to stay young at heart.
That's the safe number.
Yep. Okay, so everybody, thank you for tuning in. This has been a slow news week, a couple of weeks to be truthfully honest. So we will see you again next GVN Live, April 30th, the last day of the month. So thank you and have a good night.
See ya.